We are recording. Hello, and thank you for coming. May I please get you to state your name?
My name is Misa Fan.
So, Lisa, please tell me, what are your ties and how is Maui a part of your life?
So I grew up there. I was not born there, but my parents moved there when I was just a baby. I was 8 months old, and I lived there. We lived there through. I finished high school there, so it was 17 years total. So yes, it's very special to me because it's. I still consider it home, and my mom still lives there, and I go back often, and I'm still very close to all of my childhood friends, and so. I go at least like once a year, sometimes twice. So yeah, it's a very special place for me, of course.
Thank you. It sounds very special. And of course, uh, the recent and current events that had transpired on Maui, which resulted in a disastrous fire striking the island. Um, could you tell me how you first learned of this news and what outlets did you learn this news from?
Um, I think if it wasn't like Instagram, it was probably a headline, like a news headline that popped up on my phone. One of those two. And then I text like a bunch of my friends like right away, just to understand like how bad it was. Because wildfires on Maui aren't uncommon. But I also knew that there was a hurricane that was happening, and so it was bringing like really high winds. So of course, you're worried about how much it spread. Um, and then you're kind of, I was following it pretty closely just because my mom also lives there, and there were fires like scattered around different parts of the island and some that were quite close to where my mom lives also. But then as that was happening, it was like our evening pretty late, and it was the next morning on August 8th where you really got to see like how bad the damage was. And yeah, and then my friends um, basically kind of confirmed and told me, like I'm like, how bad? And they said basically from Lahaina High School down to the ocean, and growing up there, exactly how big of a space that is. And it was, yeah, really devastating to hear.
Yeah, and a few days ago, Hawaii News Now reported that there was approximately 110 people still reported missing almost a month after the disaster. My understanding is that 110 is not the only number that have been um, previously been reported. Uh, what is your reaction to this news, and do you feel that this is accurate?
It's definitely not accurate. There's definitely a lot more there, but it's tough because, fire is super unforgiving. You can't, I mean, it's everything's ash, and it's a process to sift through all of that and to find the remains. I mean, you're really only left with maybe some dental records and bones, and it takes time to identify all of that. And I know people are frustrated wanting answers, especially the families who have missing family members. Like I can't, it's a whole month later and they still have no answers. um, so I don't understand enough about the reporting process for these kinds of things. But I've read some articles where they're going to have to just, they'll give you a number of how many are missing and then how many are presumed dead, right? And I think that's the number people are looking to see, because it's a lot higher than 110 or 115 or whatever it is.
Thank you. And I agree. I find the numbers not consistent across my research, and your sentiment reflects that very much based on what you've heard from close loved ones versus like what you are accessing and reading yourself. And you touched upon this just now that there are so many families still waiting for an answer. How do you think that reflects on how our leaders handled this crisis and this situation? What do you think was helpful and what was not helpful?
Um, what do I think was helpful? I mean, it's really the community, I think, coming together in the way that they have, I would say, is maybe the saving grace in all of this. I mean, there's a lot of, community leaders within Hawaii, like, pro surfers, musicians who people really trust, maybe more so than, our mayor or governor or, um, the state officials. Um, I think across the board, Hawaii has always been pretty slow at everything, just generally speaking. And, we've never experienced anything like this before. So there's not really a protocol for how to handle something of this magnitude, right? And, it's tough with social media and, there's a lot of conspiracies going around and people just, it's a lot of high emotion, right? People want answers, they want to point the finger, they want to place blame. And, it's so easy to kind of get wrapped up in all of those negative emotions. But I think seeing, um, you know, people come together and all the volunteers and all the donations flooding in and just all these different groups assimilating to help has been like the most uplifting thing about all of this. Um, and I definitely don't think that, the government officials have done enough to really provide answers during the first couple of weeks. Like the updates weren't coming quick enough, communications weren't clear. It's just, I think there's going to be a lot of learnings from this, painful learnings that come out of this. And hopefully that means if and when another disaster, hopefully not, but I think they'll be a lot more prepared on how to handle the next one. There's just, and it's still, I mean, it's been a month, like today's like the 1 month anniversary. I think there's still a lot of like unanswered questions on like just the way that things were handled and just you know, the, I think the timelines are starting to come out of when things happened. And there's just a lot of poking fingers at people. And I think people really should be focusing on how to like these displaced families who lost their homes and what are we going to do with them and like how are they, when is the rebuilding going to start, once all the cleanup efforts are done. And the economy right now is really hurting too because tourists aren't visiting anymore. So there's always new problems and challenges that they need to face. So I think people kind of need to switch their, I mean, I know people are frustrated and upset, but I think we kind of need to refocus on more positive and rebuilding efforts.